Welcome back to Defense News Weekly. I'm Andrea Scott. One element of cybersecurity that many people might not think about is investigations. To prevent sensitive systems from being hacked or find the culprit when there is an attempted incursion, the government has an agency ready to respond. So what is their work like and how do they do it? Federal Times' Molly Weisner spoke to an expert from the Department of Homeland Security on this interesting wing of national security.
To kick us off, can you talk a little bit about what the center does and how it's sort of organized within the broader department, and then a little bit about the different initiatives that you and your team work on?
Certainly, my pleasure. So as you mentioned, I am the Deputy Assistant Director for Homeland Security Investigations, HSI, which is a subcomponent within DHS. We're housed under Immigration and Customs Enforcement. HSI is roughly 7,000 special agents strong, strategically deployed around 235 domestic field offices and 93 foreign offices. We have the largest global footprint of any federal investigative law enforcement agency. We are, because of our robust transnational authority and criminal authority, as well as our immigration and customs authority, a pretty powerful presence on the federal scene, the second largest investigative agency in the federal government, and the investigative arm of DHS as a whole. My role at the Cybercrime Center, and it's recently been reconstituted as the DHS Cybercrime Center, where before it was the HSI Cybercrime Center. That change is indicative of the priority that Secretary Mayorkas has placed on cybercrime in general, child exploitation specifically. But what we do at the Cybercrime Center is really serve as that focal point for all HSI investigations that touch cyber, which at this point in time really encompasses every investigation that we are involved in.
Certainly a far-reaching authority, both literally and sort of figuratively there. So, that begs the question, can you brief those who are watching a little bit about how you all are perceiving the threat landscape at HSI? I mean, certainly, the threats that we're seeing today with the rise of social media and emerging technologies, may well be very different from what we were seeing even just 10 years ago. So, how have you seen threats evolve to either become more sophisticated or difficult to detect, and what sort of things are on your radar?
That's a great question. There is no more fluid environment, rapidly evolving environment than cyber, and in particular, cybercrime. As a law enforcement agency and as a government as a whole, which many of your audience, I believe, are members of government, it's very difficult for us to keep up and keep a pace with that threat and that evolving landscape. Cyber criminals of all stripes, whether they're child predators or whether they're financial fraud motivated, cyber hackers, whether they're state actors in some cases, whether they're involved in corporate espionage, they don't have to play by the rules that all of us are rightfully, constricted by. However, what we have been able to do at the DHS Cybercrime Center and under the leadership of HSI is really utilize our nimbleness as an investigative agency to really, because we are so globally present, we do have a pretty good finger on the pulse of what's going on, because we're so well sourced when it comes to infiltration of criminal networks, for example, old school law enforcement techniques, development of sources of information and confidential informants, and the use of some of the latest and greatest technology that, quite frankly, we're leveraging for law enforcement purposes, utilizing those same technologies against criminals that they're using to either penetrate networks or conduct fraud schemes and erode cybersecurity. We have a pretty good sense of the current threats. Now, obviously, I'm sure we'll get into it, issues involving artificial intelligence. That's the hot topic these days, and how it is being leveraged across the criminal spectrum, particularly when it comes to cybersecurity issues. And we bucket cybercrime in a couple of different ways: cyber facilitated crime and cyber enabled crime. But really what we're doing at the DHS Cybercrime Center is posturing ourselves for not only the now, but for the future tense on addressing these threats.